It's a Friday, and we're talking football non-stop. All football, all the time. This is another edition of Football Friday with Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Happy Football Friday. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. What's going on over there, Ben?
Doing well, you?
I don't know. I'm all of a sudden on edge.
All of a sudden?
Well, our
43rd straight year?
Our two bosses are in the other room, like, talking. It's Salazar and Nate, and I can't help but think.
Yeah. Something's going on.
Well, certainly, what is Salazar up to?
Yeah.
Because it's in nobody's best interest, I'll tell you that. And the fact that they're in the next room is very...
Nate just learned the name Salazar.
It's very, very intimidating. Yeah, you know Nate. He runs this place like with an iron fist. Like a dictator. That's what I'm saying. I know, Salazar. It's a good name. Anywho, this isn't... it's not intimidating you, Ben? You're not worried about it?
I can tell when I need to be intimidated by Nate, and this is not the time I need to.
Can I tell you this?
I've seen Nate's face when I need to be intimidated by Nate.
You know what I like about Nate?
It's pretty obvious. He wears it on his sleeve.
From a boss perspective,
Bad
is that
poker face.
We get to see Nate like he's around.
No.
Like he'll pop his head in and hit us with a spicy Niners take or something. You know, I've had bosses before that you never saw unless it was hitting the fan.
Yeah,
and like. Every time that boss like walked in the room, it was like, oh man, this is something is terrible.
Yeah.
Something is going on right now that is not good. Not good. Oh, now Nate's coming in here. Yeah. Good to see you, boss. You do a terrific job.
At least the door works for Nate. We had a door. We had some door issues for the last month, or I guess week. I think Hans ripped the door off the hinges.
You guys should have seen Hans yesterday, actually. It was like a battering ram.
Oh, we saw him. We saw him pushing his way in here.
He lowered his shoulder and trucked that thing.
But even then, it was pretty good resistance.
Yeah. I don't want to...
It was like one of the sleds. It was back to his football days.
I don't want to cast blame. And frankly, when it comes to Hans, I'm going to tiptoe around this, I suppose. But if I had to make a bet who caused the door issue in the first place... I'm going to go with Hans. This
isn't your normal door you're going to find separating, something in your hallway. This doesn't go to the linen closet. What do you think that door weighs?
Oh, I don't know.
85 pounds?
85. That's maybe a little extreme.
But it has these huge industrial hinges on it.
It's a heavy door.
Because it's soundproof. It's a huge, heavy soundproof door.
That's the idea.
And we could not open it for the life of us yesterday. We could maybe squeeze... a foot and a half open so we could squeeze out of it. And yeah, hands lowered, got low, tried to get in that leverage position, tried to get underneath and really push that thing. And even then, it fought back pretty good.
Yeah, it
low
did.
Man wins.
Yeah, low man wins. And the door still won.
That's a former NFL defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Could not open the door. It's good now, though.
But yeah, it's working now. Probably just a little WD-40 fixed it right up.
Very nice swing action. There's no way that was a WD-40 problem. That was a mechanical issue.
Yeah, seemed like it.
In some sort of way.
But anyways, the door's back.
Christian, you tired? Christian had to work the morning show today. Car crash, Christian.
Oh, it was entertaining today.
Yeah, with those guys on remote at the Spanish Fork Airport.
Yeah, it was cool.
Listen, I know those guys where it's hard to do a live radio show when that sort of thing, like that sort of noise is going on. It actually sounded pretty cool. It actually sounded pretty cool. I was thinking like, man, I got to go see this thing. I just heard that.
Lloyd came in and Lloyd was like, it actually didn't sound that bad.
No, I mean,
like you would think being set up right on the tarmac could be pretty loud. And you could hear the airplanes, but I don't think it drowned out the show at all. I think it definitely was like, oh, yeah, we've got an air show. Come see the World War II planes.
It was interesting. And you know what? Live radio, you get put in some positions that are just unique and oftentimes difficult. I told you about the probably not, Ben, and you're obviously bored by this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Please do.
We're broadcasting from a central Utah town, and we're promoting tourism to this place, and they're like, "Do you want to talk to our oldest citizen?" I said, "Yeah,
62 years old.
yeah,
The
sure."
oldest man they've ever seen.
And so we put him on, and it went well at the beginning, and then really, really hit us with some spicy political takes. I mean, some real spicy stuff. And it was like, oh, thanks for jumping on. I mean, what do you do?
That's cool.
Like what do you do? Like, this is a sports show, actually. And
You shut that old man down. You shut him up and you shut him down.
And on top of that,
You say, I'm Jake Scott. This is my show.
he was not.
I'm the only one who's dishing out spicy political takes today, pal.
And his spicy take was anti exactly what we were there to promote, which was also
Was it Tour Utah?
no,
Oh, okay.
it was something else.
Okay.
And I don't want to. You know what? It's a really nice community, and I really enjoyed my experience, except for that was weird. And you know what? He was a nice enough guy.
Sure.
It just was not the
He had
time. It
modernized
was
his
not.
political
It was
opinions.
not the time nor the place.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just never know. Sometimes you're put in situations where you're like, all right, Ben, I know for a fact you've experienced this one, and then we'll jump into the football. But oftentimes when you're doing a remote, people don't realize that you're on the air talking, and so they'll come up and talk to you, and it's like you get prolific in sign language all of a sudden, where you're like,
Talking.
for people watching, like,
Can't hear you. Yeah.
thanks for coming though,
Yeah.
because we do appreciate support. It's
course,
not that person's fault necessarily. So it's like, thumbs up. We're talking. Can't talk to you. Hold on.
Right.
All right, Ben. What's the bigger game this weekend?
Oh, man. I think Colorado might be better than West Virginia. This
Okay.
version of West Virginia.
Okay.
If West Virginia is missing their starting quarterback, two of their running backs, their best wide receiver, several pieces on their offensive line, I think Colorado might be better than West Virginia. So in that sense, I think it's probably BYU, Colorado, and also we have, as we mentioned, not had a real measuring stick game for BYU yet, and I wouldn't call Colorado the best measuring stick BYU is going to play. In fact, it's probably going to be 5th or 6th by the time the season is over, considering they have to play Arizona, and they have to play Utah, and they have to play Iowa State, and they have to play Texas Tech. But so far, Colorado's better than Stanford. Obviously, they're better than Portland State. I think they're better than East Carolina as well, probably. Maybe they're not. They might not be better than East Carolina, but they do have, and I know the kid, Hauser, last week, has performed well other than when playing BYU this year. Colorado's quarterback might be the best or the most dangerous quarterback BYU's played so far this season.
Are we sure? Honestly, I shouldn't ask questions I don't know the answer to, I suppose. Are we sure which quarterback is playing?
I think it's Caden Salter. He played pretty well against Wyoming.
Okay. Yeah. Just confirming. I'm of two minds of this. I think what you're saying is all relevant. I do think maybe overthinking it just a tad. Are you a glass half full on a Friday guy or a glass half empty? Because I think here's where I'm conflicted. The Bears' first conference game. And yeah, more of a test than whatever. But the Bears' first conference game. Going on the road, first conference game, that's a big story in a kind of positive, can the Frosh get it done kind of way. How does Utah respond is the big story on the Utah side after, does the offense show any sign of life after a true difficult test and a tough day against a team that you should show a sign of life? That's a big story. So is it the Frosh Open it up conference play on the road against Neon Deion Sanders? Or is it, can Utah's offense show some life? Because those are the two relevant storylines, in my opinion, that make these games relevant.
I actually think this is a bit of a conversation between the micro and the macro. Micro, Bear Bachmeier at Colorado's the bigger story. Macro, is Utah's offense able to look better, or is it continuing to get worse? Because truthfully, it's probably gotten worse every single week.
Oh, that's an interesting take.
It was good against UCLA.
It was good against UCLA.
I don't really care what they did against Cal Poly. I mean, they scored, 60-plus points, and they were fine. They were pretty atrocious. I mean, they were truly atrocious in the first half against Wyoming.
Yeah, really bad.
And then got a little bit better in the second half and racked up 31 points, but it wasn't exactly awesome. And a lot of it wasn't even...
It wasn't seamless, yeah. Mm-hmm.
A lot of it wasn't even Devin Dampier. Some of it was just letting Hunter Andrews, who's not on the team anymore, at least he's not healthy anymore, he's not available to play the rest of the season, just like wildcatting himself up the field over and over and over. So that's gone. And then they were truly awful against Texas Tech.
Right.
So are they trending in the wrong direction? And if so, is that just a result of, you overlooked Wyoming and Texas Tech is very good? Or was it really obvious what you did on paper and everyone said, well, let's game plan for that. And if they don't show us anything else, then we've got the game plan.
Right.
And so that's the macro story of the season for Utah, is which direction is this offense going to head? And are they going to have a second gear? Or are they going to be purely one-dimensional? Because as you've said, and rightfully so, if they're one-dimensional, it's not hard to stop one-dimensional teams, especially when you don't have generational running backs.
Right.
If Utah had, Zach Moss, Devontae Booker, even John White IV, I think at his best, some of these guys that when they were even one-dimensional offenses, and Zach Moss was on a less one-dimensional offense, but were good enough to take over a game. I mean, you remember how bad those offenses were for Utah, but Devontae Booker and John White IV, by the second half of the game, fourth quarter of the game, they were just dominating. I don't know if that's what the Utes have in either N'Keary Rodgers or Wayshawn Parker, but if they don't, it's going to be really easy to slow this team down, and they're not going to score 30 this year. Even against West Virginia.
If you look at last year, and everybody I think can agree last year was a bit of a spiral. The season started out with high aspirations, and then the first loss of the season, interestingly enough, but was an alarming loss, was to Arizona last year when they lost 23-10. And an Arizona team that wasn't particularly good, right?
Yep.
But then the next week they go at Arizona State and lose 27-19. That was not a get-right game. Arizona State.
No, that was. And in fact, that's not a terrible loss.
No, they were obviously a good team, and that's not a bad loss. The next week after that, they lost at home to TCU 13-7. That should have been their get-right game. Does that make sense? Okay. That should have been their game where it's like, okay, we've got the Isaac Wilson freshman. We lost a game against Arizona we shouldn't have. Arizona State was really tough, but TCU can't stop anybody. They never can. Sonny Dykes is on the other side of the field. Yeah. I know what kind of defense that's coming to the table. This should be a team that we're able to move the ball against and score a bunch of points. And you hold TCU to 13. That's a game you 1,000% should win every time.
Yeah, if I remember, a late interception in that game cost Utah a chance to take the lead there. But yeah, neither here nor there.
And then they followed that up with a loss to Houston 17-14. And
that was the wheels coming off.
And that's the wheel. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that was fully the wheels have come off.
This year, fortunately for Utah, they've got a get-right game right after.
They do. And then a bye week.
So do they get right? And I don't expect them to lose to West Virginia 13-7.
You'd hope not.
Because I don't think it should spiral for Utah this year. I don't think so. I don't think the spiral is the norm with this program. So how much of a get-right game, how much do they get right against West Virginia?
I watched West Virginia, Kansas this morning. Kansas moves the ball pretty similarly to the way Utah moves the ball. Not a lot of downfield passing, not a lot of deep shots.
No, they're a spread option attack.
Spread option, Pretty quick throws. In fact, the throw that Jalen Daniels can make best is kind of that long throw out into the flat, kind of out in the open, and let guys take off and make a play from there. Hopefully they can use a little bit of their speed on the edge there. that's the same throw that Devin Dampier makes. It's not a lot of deep stuff. In fact, there was none at all for Kansas in the first half of this game. And then they really broke it open because they started a kick return. They had a kick return for a touchdown to open the second half, and then the game was essentially over. Utah should be able to replicate what they saw from Kansas and win relatively easily, I think. And if they do that, that is the get-right game, and they go into a break. Problem is, if West Virginia is a little bit more familiar with that, I don't think West Virginia's defense is terrible. And Utah finds themselves in a spot where they're trying to prove that there's something. Are they going to come out on the first drive and say, like, yeah, we got to take a deep shot. Everyone's been saying we can't throw it. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you had a 3-and-out. You don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Maybe he comes in and punches you in the mouth on their first drive because it's scripted and he plays well and he knows how to make a couple of throws and they have a trick play to get out early. And then do you start scrambling? That's the disaster scenario for Utah, I think, where I guess it could go bad and then you lose a game 17-10. You miss a couple of field goals and things really go wrong. But no, Utah should be able to win this game.
Oh, more than a should. Utah should win. Yeah, absolutely. But Rich Rod is not a bozo coach. Now, I'm not speaking for his personal life because it seems like there's been some bozo behavior there. But he's a coach that's beat Witt before. So it's not like they've got a brainless moron over there who's just going to lay down because that's not Rich Rod. So, yeah, how much does Utah get right? I think that's a huge story. And the Bears' first conference game, huge story. Coach Witt did talk about spiraling. You want to play that clip?
Sure.
We can hear what his perspective was.
I'm very confident that this team is not going to allow that to happen. Just their attitude, their competitiveness. Last year's team was competitive too and had a great attitude, but we've got a lot of things going for us. We just had an off day offensively. We've got really good leadership on this team, and we just got to keep people healthy. And that was really the situation last year. And I'm assuming that we won't have a run of bad luck like we did then, but we'll be back on a Saturday and 200 teams play, or however many there are, and half of them lose. And you got to be able to handle it and bounce back. And so that's the situation we're in now.
Did you say 200 teams?
Yeah.
It could be counting
FCS.
Yeah.
Okay. The big quote there is we had an off week. We had a bad week. If that's not the case, if that is not the case, that will be the quote that will stick with me all year. That Witt thought that was a bad week and not that was actually who they were.
Right.
That's a big storyline. That's the macro. That's why I think, yes, you're right. Bear on the road at Colorado, opening conference play. You're really going to start facing teams that get better progressively. You've wiped out all the patty cakes on your schedule. Everyone's going to get better, and Colorado's not great, but they're better than the teams you faced so far. That's the micro. The macro is, was that a bad week for Utah, or is this going to continue all season?
Because how consistently not bad the Bear is how BYU season is going to go. Mm-hmm. And so on the road to open up conference is something that he has never experienced before and would rattle most mortal humans, myself included.
You're mortal?
Barely. Half.
Hercules over here.
Yeah, just the half, kind of like Maui, right?
Okay.
A demigod.
Okay.
That
Someone's
kind of
been
thing.
listening to their podcasts.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I got a lot of that going on. Anywho, how does the Bear handle it? Huh? And you know what? The good news for him is I don't think Colorado's defense is that great. So he's going to have the opportunity to have some success. But going into onto a foreign field in conference play where it matters, Deion Sanders is on the other sideline. It's what are they being broadcast on? It's national TV at night. They've got the night window. Is it on the Mouse?
I'll pull up my schedules here real quick.
Yeah, it's the Mouse. So you're going to have a huge audience. Everybody loves to watch Deion. How does that go? I think that's that's the story. Like I said, that's the story of BYU's season. How does he handle situations just like this one? And this one's not a particularly hard one.
No, it's not. I like Caden Salter. He's going to get beat up by BYU's defense because that's what they do, and he still sometimes has a tendency to say, like, how far backwards can I run? You can't. You don't get to do that in college football. So there will be issues there, and BYU is just going to run the ball. This is not a Bear Bachmeier game. This is an LJ Martin game.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's just what they're going to do over and over.
If it's not, then something went horribly wrong for BYU.
But Salter can move the ball with his legs, and he can take some deep shots. He's not a bad thrower. Probably more of a true dual threat than generally you hear that, and it means, well, he can run and he can kind of throw the ball a little bit. I think he can actually throw the ball a bit. So they'll probably hit some bigger plays against BYU's defense than we've seen so far this season, would be my guess. But they're not going to be able to stop the run at all.
Here are BYU's road games in the league this year, Ben. At Colorado, then at Arizona, which nobody goes to games in Arizona even when they're good, so that's not all that intimidating. At Iowa State.
Very tough.
At Texas Tech.
Very tough.
Oh, they're soft. Pudding soft. It's going to be an easy road environment.
Cool.
And then at Cincinnati. So he's going to have some interesting road environments on his hands.
Yeah, I'm not trying to dismiss anything BYU's done. Bear has been, honestly, probably to this point better than I would have expected. Does he have an interception yet? I think he does, so he's pretty spotless there. I guess I wish he probably would have run a few fewer times than he has, because I think he's taken some shots that might make him get comfortable taking shots that you can't against better football teams, including starting with Colorado this weekend. But he's not been tested nearly as much as he will.
No, but has he gotten his equipment on correctly?
Sure, yeah.
He
may have picked the wrong number.
He's succeeding.
You're right.
You know what? He's killing it.
Yeah.
So,
he's still in the tutorial stage.
Yeah, of course he is. He's a freshman. He's 19.
This is still this is how you do this for later on, but you're actually going to have to know how to do it later on.
Yes, somebody just went up to him the other day and said, "This is a razor blade, and here is some shaving cream, and this is how you do it." He's 19, of course.
With the grain.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, against Colorado, I'm not expecting 300 yards from him. You know what I am expecting? No disasters. And he hasn't had any disasters. He's been fine.
Yeah. Well, the only disasters he's faced are the defenses he's gone against. Luckily,
sure, fine.
Yeah.
I've seen freshmen fail.
Yeah, of course.
Against horrendous defenses. We saw it last year with Isaac Wilson.
All season long.
He wasn't going up against the 85 Bears on that TCU team,
Right.
So it's a difficult thing when evaluating him. And I do think it is a big deal, Colorado aside, that he's playing his first road game in league this weekend. How does it go for that? I think is a big story. All right. Stay tuned. Top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Coming up next, it's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at KSLSports.com/contests. And listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week. Sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. We'll have Steve Bartle coming up at the top of the 11 o'clock hour to talk about the Utes. And Tyler King will be on with us at 11:30. He works for the Denver Gazette, so I'm assuming, Christian, he's coming on
more Broncos
to talk about the Broncos. Does he cover the Broncos for the Denver Gazette, Christian?
He does not. He covers the Buffs.
Oh, the BYU's opponent. Oh, okay.
Do you think we can ask him about the Broncos?
You might. I'm sure he's a fan.
Oh, I think Christian's going to force us. That's going to be what we open with.
I sent you questions.
We're going to talk about throw picks right off the bat.
This is a pre-recorded interview. Christian actually did all the questions. You and I are just voicing over the actual questions he asked.
And 3/4 of it is breaking down who's third string on
Is Bo Nix a good quarterback or a great quarterback? Play the answer.
Is he going to be a Super Bowl champ or a Super Bowl champ and a Hall of Famer?
Just make sure we have them in order, pal.
It's time for the top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Christian, where do you want to start today?
Number 1, college football starting to pick up. We've got a lot of great games on the slate this weekend, starting with tonight.
Couple of Big 12 games tonight. TCU at Arizona State.
Wow, Christian really wrong-footed me there. I had brushed up on the Bengals, Denver's current opponent this week. I thought for sure that would be number one.
Who's their quarterback?
What was
now?
it? College football?
TCU
What?
at ASU. Am I right on that? I don't have this schedule wrong. And then Houston at Oregon State. That's not a very good game.
Arizona State TCU is a huge game.
Houston's about to move to 4-0.
Yeah.
So that's going to be awesome for them. TCU, Arizona State, we'll see. I think Arizona State should be able to figure this out.
I don't know. I think TCU is pretty good. I think they're a little better than we give them credit because they weren't great last year, right? No. They were pretty.
Well, they were 9-4.
They were
TCU.
Yeah, but it was, I don't know, the way I remember it. Maybe that's not fair and unspectacular. 9-4. I think they're better this year. I mean, granted, it was against the adult novelty heiress, but they hammered North Carolina. And SMU, I don't know. How good a win is that? You and I have both kind of debated that. I'm not so sure. I think TCU is absolutely capable of beating a scataboo-less Arizona State team.
If Arizona State loses this game, I think I'm prepared to say they're probably not contending for the Big 12 title anymore.
Okay.
And I think it would still only be their first Big 12 loss, so I understand some may be saying pump the brakes, but it's the type of losses they're incurring, understanding that the rest of their schedule after they play TCU tonight does involve Utah, Texas Tech, Houston, Iowa State, and Arizona in a rivalry game. They get West Virginia and Colorado mixed in there, but they did not get an easy draw.
No.
You know.
Whereas TCU, Ben, check this out. After Arizona State, they're home against Colorado, at Kansas State, home against Baylor, at West Virginia, which is a stretch. They could go unblemished.
Yeah.
But then they have a home game against Iowa State, then at BYU. So those two are tough. At Houston, which is looking tougher and tougher by the week, and then finish it out at home against Cincinnati. So if you told me TCU got through that with one or two losses, I'd believe it. Not if they lose against Arizona State tonight, however. I think of that run, Iowa State, BYU, and Houston, I think they lose at least one, probably two of those.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Arizona State's win over Baylor last week was very solid. I don't think Baylor's awesome. Still think they're going to be probably looking to move on from Dave Aranda by the end of the year because I think they're looking at a 7-win season, maybe 8 at the best. And is that enough to keep them around? Maybe. But I know they've been advertising how much they pay their players, and 8 wins is not a lot to be bragging about. So that was a decent win on the road. They get to return home. Fun game. I mean, this is a good game, no question about it.
Other than that, the only interesting league game, in my opinion, is tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Arizona will be at Iowa State.
That's the only other interesting game this week.
I mean, look at the matchups. What is Kansas State, UCF really doing it for you?
I said we got to figure out
Cincinnati at Kansas. You're really looking forward to that one? That one banging down your door?
If Kansas State can't win at home against Central Florida, that's Utah's loss at Houston last year. That's
okay.
This is irredeemable. But then again, you're talking like Kansas State's clearly not in the running to win the Big 12.
But you're not gonna be
you're right.
At 10 a.m. glued to UCF Kansas or Ballore at Oklahoma State. I guess an interim coach is kind of interesting, but who cares about that game?
But then across college
Utah
football,
should smash West Virginia, and BYU should beat Colorado. Maybe, if not, smash Colorado. So, yes, Arizona at Iowa State is the next most interesting game.
I think you're probably right. See if I can pull this up quickly.
I'm going to call Ben at 10 a.m., and if you are not watching Kansas State UCF on FS1, I'm going to be Ben.
Kansas State, Central Florida. FS1? I'll have to find it.
I'm going to set an alarm on my phone. You better be watching that game at kick.
USC at Illinois. Illinois just embarrassed itself as far as the top 25 matchup goes against Indiana. They got absolutely smoked. LSU Ole Miss going head-to-head with Utah, West Virginia. I don't think that Utah-West Virginia game on Fox is going to get a lot of viewers. So I think LSU Ole Miss is a pretty big game.
Can the mighty Aggies get a top 25 win on the road, taking on Vandy?
No, Vandy's good.
Well, it depends. How much did they hang out on Broadway? Or how much do they hang out on Broadway tonight?
Hopefully a lot. Find some...
You're cheering for Vandy?
Find some brides-to-be.
Jeez.
No,
Ben
I
goes
mean,
there one time, and all of a sudden...
Ben's a Vandy guy.
Go to Tootsie's. If you guys are down there, go to Tootsie's. Oregon State at Penn State, top 6 matchup between those two teams. That's a good one. And then what had been a good game historically, I don't know if DeBoer can do it, Alabama on the road at Georgia.
How should the Lane Train feel about his daughter dating a linebacker for LSU?
I hope she poisons him.
I hope she poisons him. Did you see that story?
Yeah.
I don't know how I'd feel about that, really.
I would say, hope he makes it big. Hope he gets rich.
Okay.
Yeah, be great.
All right.
Hope you're happy.
But are you intentionally scheming to like injure him because they're playing this week?
Just hit him low. Hit him in the back.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Blindside.
Wouldn't that be tempting as a father when
Sure.
you're game planning against the boyfriend of your daughter? Like,
pretend to run out there concerned, like checking on the opposing player's team, and then get in his face and be like, "Watch it, pal."
watch it.
It's more where that came
You think
from.
that high-low hurt
Yeah.
now?
Wait till Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Be tempting. That's all I'm saying. Go, Ole Miss. I'm
Do you
rooting
think they'll
for-
still be together after this game? Or do you think Kiffin has her asking about like blitz packages and stuff?
Oh, is this a spy op?
Is this Tom Brady 2.0?
No,
That's my theory.
this is the honey trap, the classic honey trap. Now it's bold to use your daughter, I suppose, but okay. I like where your mind's at, Christian. I could see that absolutely. Yeah, this dude's headed for Dumpsville as soon as this game's over.
Numbers blocked.
Oh, all right. What's next?
Number 2, the Jazz open training camp on Monday.
Hey, we're gonna be there.
Yeah, we're going to be live at training camp. So that's going to be exciting. Going to be sitting practice courtside.
Is there a player you're looking forward to in particular hearing from?
Mo Bamba. Just Mo Bamba, who did sign with the Jazz officially yesterday.
That was a very smart alecky response.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of Ace, because that's
Yeah, I
the
mean, an
one.
ace is should be the story of the season. Though I wonder if Walt Clayton might take that over. You know what? I'm not necessarily anticipating like a great answer just because I know who he is, and it's not because I think he's a bad guy by any means. But every rumor I've heard, every report I've heard is that Keontae George has had a crazy summer.
See, you went exactly where I was going to go. I want to hear what his perspective. I hope it's very businesslike. Does that make any sense? I think you're totally right. He needed to have a great offseason, and he needs to go into the season with a I don't know. What you're the writer. What word would you describe the mentality he needs to have this year? How about this? Walker Kessler like.
He needs to go into the I want to be in the NBA after this season.
Yeah.
He needs to take that approach.
Like
this
Walker's
year.
attitude last year.
Yeah, exactly right.
He came in and he's like, man, I'm going to go out there and eat some elbows and lead the league in rebounding.
Because if he's not careful, he could be Trey Burke, not Walker Kessler.
Keontae George. Yeah, 100%.
If he's not careful, after this season, the Jazz might be trying to trade him to a team for a second-round pick. If he doesn't improve his shooting percentages, if his focus isn't better, if he's good for 10 games, awful for 15 games.
That's the maddening part, because when he plays hard, he's good.
He's really good, yeah.
Yeah, when he plays hard, he's good.
And he doesn't have the physical limitations that Trey Burke had. He's not James Harden physically. You know, he's not 6'5".
No, but Trey Burke was like 5'10".
Yeah, he was. You're truthfully.
He was
And
very small.
Keontae's 6'1". So Keontae should be big enough, and he should go into this season, truthfully, with the expectation that he should open the season as the starting point guard.
I think he's got to earn that, not expect it, but I get what you're saying.
No, he's
Yeah,
got to earn it for sure, but he should be looking at everyone around him and say, Isaiah Collier simply cannot shoot the basketball.
I should be able to beat out all these guys.
Walt
yeah, I agree with
Clayton
that.
has never played an NBA game before. This is my third season. I've played 150 games. I think he's led the Jazz in minutes each of the last 2 seasons. It's like, yeah, dude, they have set you up to be the face of that position going forward. If you've had a big year and they've cleared the deck, moving off of Colin Sexton to give you even more opportunity, you need to accept that and you need to let it happen.
Got to run with it.
Yeah, you got to run with it. So I that will probably be who I'm curious to see how they actually look when they get on the floor.
I want to hear what he sounds like too. I want to it doesn't mean he can't crack some jokes, but I want to hear I'm going to go grab that position, that sort of thing. I'm going to get out there. This is my third year. I'm going to prove it. I'm in that mode.
One of the last times we talked to him, we said, "What do you want to do this offseason? What do you want to come back? What do you hope to have?" And he said, "I hope to have the respect of my fellow NBA players." And I did not like that answer. You've got respect. You're in the league. What do you mean?
Yeah,
You're in the NBA. That's the respect.
I don't think that's what he was getting at. I think maybe he was getting at he gets clowned out there a little bit.
Well,
And because he's getting minutes he didn't necessarily earn, he doesn't have the respect
That's possible.
which is 100% true. I don't know. Evaluating on the spot, I don't hate that comment because whatever you got to do to get whatever you have to do to motivate yourself, knock yourself out. But yeah, there is a thing to earning your spot in the NBA, and he has not earned. leading, that's a great stat you pulled out. The leading an NBA team in minutes for 2 seasons in a row means you've got a big role on a team.
Yeah.
He has not earned that role in the NBA. I get what he's saying. I'm sure guys are in his ear like, the only reason you're playing is because you're on a 17-win team.
He would not lead any other team in minutes in the NBA.
No.
Not even close.
No.
Not even close.
He got that many minutes on a team trying to lose, which is actually kind of a sneaky insult.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that other players let him know that.
Yeah.
I would guess.
So maybe Keontae.
So go earn it.
Yep.
I hope he does it for him. I mean, I thought it was cool that he was around for Summer League. I thought that was great.
Agreed.
I thought that's a really good sign. All right, next.
Number 3, the Seahawks win Thursday Night Football and a game-winning field goal, and we got a ton of other fun games this weekend.
You know what? All I could think about last night when I was catching parts of that game, Ben, was, how unbelievable smart I am. I mean, it's just remarkable.
That's what your takeaway was?
That's exact.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of joking, but I thought about our conversation yesterday.
Kind of joking.
I thought about our conversation talking about why Kyler Murray is actually a huge detriment to his team because of what he's paid. He and Sam Darnold, and I know Kyler did not play well last night, so I'll give him a little more of the benefit of the doubt. But he and Sam Darnold are the same guy. And Sam Darnold costs half as much.
Yeah, at best. Yeah.
Well, he got a good payday after his season
decent
last year
payday,
in Minnesota. But they're giving you the same thing.
Sam Darnold has exactly the Baker Mayfield deal. 3 years, $100 million.
So $33 million a year.
Yeah, he's $25 million less than Kyler Murray, I think.
So he's about 60% salary what Kyler Murray is.
Uh-huh.
And they give you the exact same thing. I mean, mediocrity is what they give you.
5 years, $230 for Kyler Murray.
Yeah,
He
right.
couldn't move the ball for the first 3.5 quarters. They put together 2 drives late to tie the game, and then the kicker.
That's why who you pay is such a critical
The
thing.
kicker didn't clear the 20-yard line on his kickoff, and they started at the 40. Needed 2 plays and right in the field goal position.
And the NFL is in the NBA where you can mess around with the luxury tax and all this stuff. Like, it's punitive.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Who you pay matters. That's what teams are successful. The ones who pick. If you want to talk about Bill Belichick and what he was really good at, he was really good at cutting players. He's really good at looking his beloved players in the face and saying, "You're not worth that anymore. Have a nice day." He was really good at it.
He was, yeah.
He changed over that roster at the exact right time. He didn't overpay anybody. Right? I mean, he didn't even overpay Tom, famously.
Best game of the weekend outside of Jets-Dolphins Monday night is Ravens at the Chiefs. These are 2 1-2 teams. That's got to be the most surprise. Considering last night those 2 teams were competing to see who would be 3-1.
Uh-huh.
The fact that the Ravens and Chiefs are both 1-2 is pretty shocking. Other good game over the weekend. Packers on the road at the Cowboys has good storylines, so the Packers should be significantly better. 11 a.m. Fox. Eagles on the road at the Commanders. Those are 2, or at the Buccaneers, excuse me. Eagles at Bucks, both 3-0 teams.
Who's the Irish game?
Minnesota.
Minnesota, the early game. Do you like that?
They are staying there for a week. They'll be in London next week.
Okay. Minnesota, the Vikings and the Steelers. Do you like the early window? I mean, I'm not going to watch it at 7:30.
Am I getting up at 7:30 to watch the game on the NFL Network? No, I will not.
I like the idea of having it in the background of breakfast, though. Like,
Sure.
In the same way I like the French Open or the World Cup in Dubai.
The 11 a.m. window really stinks this week, other than Eagles Buccaneers. So
Well, what did DJ pick for us on CBS? Do they have an early one?
Titans or something.
Oh, way to go, David. All right, stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next.
Titans Texans.
It's the
Another absolute dynamite matchup.
Jake and Ben,
Thanks,
97.5
DJ.
KSL Sports Zone.
It's another battle for the Aggies, and the KSL Sports Zone has it covered. The Aggies head to Nashville for a showdown against Vanderbilt. Your home for all the play-by-play coverage of Aggie football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Let's lock in.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You can win big every Wednesday on Win Ticket Wednesday on the KSL Sports Zone. Next week, you could win Fastness VIP tickets to Nightmare on 13th. One location, 2 haunted attractions, Nightmare on 13th, where Halloween lives. Get $10 off nighttime attractions by using discount code ZONE. And listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day on Wednesday for your chance to win. Ben, I have 2 minor coaching stories for you.
Okay.
One, did you see that shout out to the Smollier got an extension?
I did.
The Lakers extend JJ Redick.
Yeah.
Now, famously, who else did not get an extension this offseason?
Mr. James.
LeBron
James, yeah.
So what I am going to find interesting this season is this might be the first year in LeBron's entire career that he does not have the coach by the short hairs.
He no longer have the leverage over the entire roster.
Right. Over specifically the coach.
But the coach specifically, yes.
So the coach has more leverage than LeBron for the first time in his career. How does that go?
It truly is a big deal. One of the things that, I don't know, fans may not really pay attention to all that much, and I don't blame you if you do. If your contract is longer than your coach's, your coach loses a lot of leverage over you. That's pretty common in sports. That's pretty well known. And then if you're the best player, a la LeBron, and you can call for the coach's firing and the team will listen to you, that's always been an interesting dynamic that he has had, and hence he's had so many coaches. The only coach he's not been able to fire historically was Eric Spoelstra, but everyone else he's been able to pick and choose how he moves. I will be curious if this changes how the Sommelier uses LeBron, though I don't think so.
Yeah, uses him like stand in the corner.
Watch Luka.
Watch Luka play basketball. Watch Luka play basketball. It's not going to sit well. And then my other one, and we don't have to dwell on this because I know you're tired of me bringing up Bill Belichick, but I need your help on this one, okay?
Is he on a new magazine cover?
No.
Oh, okay.
Us Weekly. Can you believe he's on Us Weekly? But this is part of it, okay? You know as well as I do that there is a code in coaching where they do not criticize each other. Mm-hmm. It's coaches' code. From announcers to whatever, coaches do not criticize each other. So when it happens, it's notable and begs the question, why? So let me, that's the question I want for you. Why was the code broken? Ben, Urban Meyer appeared on a podcast, the Triple Option podcast, whatever that is, and talked about Bill Belichick, the head coach of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And this is what he said, quote, "Before we discuss this, I wanted to do a little homework, and I watched, some tape on it. They're worse on tape than I thought they would be. You can say, well, we have really bad players. Okay, you brought in 70 new people, but I'm seeing things that just, misfits on defense." And then he goes, he describes what a misfit is, but like a big mistake on defense. He has a specific blocking thing or whatever. But basically, he's saying the team doesn't know what they're doing. And then goes on to add, and then on the offensive side, it's a train wreck. And then says he doesn't expect it to end well. Now, he also added that you can't fire Bill Belichick, and that's not what he expects to happen, but he doesn't expect it to end well. But hearing a coach clown another coach like this does not happen. So my question to you is, why?
Urban is on a little bit of an island. It helps Urban to have another, even though they are reversing roles, which is really funny. Urban went legendary college coach to buffoon NFL coach, and Bill's going legendary NFL to buffoon college coach. I do think there's a little bit of that, of willing to throw him under the bus.
I think you hit on exactly it. I think all the coaching circles clowned on Urban for being a terrible NFL coach. And now the greatest NFL coach ever is coming to coach college, a landscape he dominated.
Licking his fingers.
And he's like,
watch this.
Hey, Bill, it ain't that easy, is it?
Yeah, right. Apparently this was easy.
Yeah, you were some genius hacking on me for not being good at the NFL level. Well, you know what? You suck at North Carolina. You're a train wreck. And you never hear coaches talk about other coaches like that. Never.
Especially if you're a broadcaster. Even a former coach, but then a broadcaster will rip on a coach. A former coach broadcaster will generally not rip on anybody.
Jeff Van Gundy has never criticized a coach ever.
Yeah, and then certainly will not rip a coach. So I do think that's probably part of the dynamic. I also wonder, and this is an aside from Urban, which is, his first year, Dion was terrible at Colorado. They went 3-0 and then they lost 9 straight. And then his second season, they put it back together and got a little bit better. And, they were certainly better last year than they were 2 years ago, but they're bad again this season. Do we need to give Bill another season? Not that I actually expect Bill to be there next year and just say, well, yeah, 70 is a lot of turnover. Or do we look at Utah State and say, hey, man, Bronco turned over that entire roster, and I think they're going to be good. Not a great team, but, they're going to be very competent.
They're functional, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Bronco...
At very least, I'm not trying to be condescending.
If I had given Bronco the UNC job, they would be better than they are under Bill Belichick.
1,000% agree with that, yeah.
And Bronco's a really good coach, but...
to bring this together, because Bill Belichick is busy posing for the Us Weekly shoot. He's not coaching. That was Urban's point, really, which I think is right on. They're making basic mistakes that a well-coached team would never make because he's not there. He's not coaching. So anyway, Urban clown and Bill Belichick I thought was pretty funny. All right, stay tuned. Steve Bartle joins us coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The Utes try to bounce back tomorrow against West Virginia. Let's talk to Bartle about it. Hit it, Christian.
Covering the Utes better than anyone else. This is Ute Insider Steve Bartle of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Let's Bartle it up a little bit.
Let's Bartle about it.
With Steve Bartle, who's live from, are you from Morgantown right now, Steve?
Steve, the game's tomorrow.
Dude, literally somebody just yelled that at me 20 minutes ago out of their truck. Yes, I know the game is tomorrow. I'm here getting a lay of the land. I've never been to Morgantown, and just trying to get a feel for the college atmosphere here. That's all.
How is the town?
It's kind of cool, dude. It's pretty unique. Obviously, very college town. Yeah, dude. It's kind of gives me Washington State vibes a little bit. It's pretty cool.
Where'd you fly into? Did you go Pittsburgh and then drive down?
Yeah, I flew into Pittsburgh, got in last night. I think I grabbed some breakfast this morning from Pamela's Diner and made the trip down. And now I'm walking up a giant flight of stairs, and if I lose my breath, I apologize. It's bad. In fact, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop halfway up the stairs so I can do this radio interview the proper way. I'm sorry.
Well, say hi to Pam for us at the old diner. I'm looking at the injury reports. No real surprises for Utah that are, I guess some names that we haven't seen before. I looked at it for West Virginia, though, and yeah, they're starting quarterbacks out, top running backs out, second best running backs doubtful, third best running backs questionable.
Yeah.
Do you think Utah has a grasp of what they're going to be looking at, who they're going to be facing coming up tomorrow?
Honestly, probably not. They have a pretty good idea. Obviously, a quarterback, Jalen Henderson. It sounds like he's going to be the guy that'll lead the Mountaineers tomorrow. And he's actually somebody that he entered the portal last winter, and Utah evaluated him in terms of potentially bringing him in to their own quarterback room. So they're kind of familiar with Jalen Henderson and his game and know what he's about. And I think they'll have a good sense of what to expect at that quarterback position. But, man, everywhere else, on that offensive side of the ball in particular, there's a lot of unknowns. And that's kind of a unique, interesting factor that Utah is going to have to, prepare for. Obviously, with West Virginia, Jaheim White was an all-conference preseason type of guy. He's somebody that had my vote as an all-conference running back in this conference. I thought, given his production last year and knowing what this Rich Rodriguez offense is all about, I thought Jaheim White was primed to have a really big season. He's out, week 2 for the season. They get somebody else, Ty Edwards, that emerges in that Pitt game, 141, 3 touchdowns on the ground. And, he's questionable with the hip injury. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see, who exactly takes the field for West Virginia and for Utah, coming into this game. at least having an understanding of that quarterback position and what you could potentially see there gives you, at least a foundation to prepare for. But they're going to have to be, adjustments are going to be key because you just don't know who's going to step up, who's going to emerge as potential, go-to options for Rich Rod and that offense. Because, we don't really know exactly who's going to play, who are going to be the guys that have to step up. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Ben and I were talking earlier in the show, Steve, about this seems like a good opportunity for a get-right game. After a tough loss where everything didn't go 100%, obviously, according to plan, good opportunity to go up against a West Virginia team where maybe they can move the ball a little bit. So with that in mind, what do you expect out of the offense?
I expect exactly that, right? Because it has to be that. In order for them to, be the sort of team that they believe that they can be this season, you need that sort of performance this week, after a pretty lackluster showing last week. And obviously we've now learned that, Devin Dampier missed practice time Tuesday and Wednesday, and that clearly had an effect on his ability to execute, in the passing game. And I think, this week he's been able to practice from what I've gathered. And, that should lead to, an improved performance in that phase of the game. And I think you're going to need it. You're going to have to show something in the passing game because Texas Tech has provided the blueprint in terms of limiting this offense. And, this is what Utah has established, through the first 3 weeks. In the non-conference schedule is who they are, right? They want to be a team that runs the ball. They want to be a team that, utilizes multiple guys in the run game, and with Devin Dampier being a focal point of that. And Texas Tech was supposed to be the showcase for that next step, that evolutionary step of this offense. And again, just kind of given the context of what happened last week with Dampier missing time, we didn't get to see that. And so it's a question that everybody had for the offense coming into the season was, what is this passing game going to look like? Who are going to be the guys that emerge as go-to targets? I think we have a good idea that Ryan Davis, Dallin Bentley, those are going to be pretty consistent contributors in the passing game. But who are going to be the guys around them? Who, is Dampier going to be able to lead this team through the air in games where opponents, continue to focus on taking away the ground game? So this is going to be important because, this is the counterpunch to what Texas Tech did. And Utah's got to be able to go out there and do some things on offense and provide, a pretty resounding performance, in my opinion.
Here's the thing, Steve. Jalen Daniels last week was 12 of 24 for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was not an impressive performance through the air at all from the Jayhawks, and they absolutely smoked West Virginia. So does Utah have to put anything on film? I mean, do they have to show they can move the ball downfield with big chunk plays? Because I know there was they had a couple of plays over 35 yards, but it was not a lot through the air for Kansas last week.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, but I think it's important to note that Jalen Daniels and the Jayhawks started the season out pretty hot through the air, right? They've had some pretty solid performances, throwing the ball through the first 3 weeks and kind of set themselves up to have success, against West Virginia without needing to throw the ball. It's the opposite for Utah, right? They've established their presence on the ground, and I think that's still going to be the key tomorrow, right? Like, because Utah was also shut down on the ground last week, it's going to be important for Utah to reestablish control of the line of scrimmage and establish the run and get production there as well. But I think, Kansas was able to do what they did last week and have a really good game on the ground because they were able to throw the ball through the first 3 weeks of the season, where Utah, good production, through the air in terms of efficiency and completion percentage. But the downfield passing attack is such a big question mark that if not now, then when are you going to be able to do it? Because West Virginia, though it's a pretty tough defense, they run a 3-3-5 defense that gets a lot of pressure on quarterbacks. This is a good test this isn't going to be the toughest defense that Utah faces the rest of the way. And so it's going to be important for Utah to start providing those answers through the air at some point. And this is a week where, it would be really valuable for them to get that and then to get into the bye week and continue to work on things, because the week after that, you've got the Sun Devils coming to Salt Lake City. Then you go on the road to Provo. You've got Colorado coming in, and we know what Dion and that secondary are all about. So it's going to be important for Utah to start providing answers in the passing game. And this is a great opportunity to do that this weekend.
Who is the pass catcher most likely to be able to deliver that? And I say pass catcher because maybe it's not a receiver, maybe it's a tight end or somebody else. But who's going to be on the receiving end of those plays?
Well, I mean, what we've seen so far, right, is Ryan Davis and Dallin Bentley. Those are the focal points of the passing attack. And Ryan Davis obviously coming in with the chemistry already established with Dan Pierre, thanks to their time together last year in New Mexico and his understanding of the offense and all that. So you feel good about that continuing moving forward, just given the chemistry and all of that. Dallin Bentley has been a real bright spot for Utah at that tight end spot. I think he can continue to be, a reliable source. But you're going to need a third and fourth guy to step up, and that's kind of where the drop off has been. Is that third spot, and it's Tobias Merriweather. He's been the guy that's played. He's been the starter, at that wide receiver position. They've just missed on some big time opportunities down the field. I mean, literally a couple passes to Merriweather have slipped right through his fingertips, just missing the mark by, a couple inches. And so, Merriweather is a guy that I think you would love to see for Utah, emerge as that third guy, as a consistent contributor in that sense. But they've got others, right? They've got this freshman, JJ Buchanan, who's kind of this wide receiver tight end. He's caught a touchdown already. He's caught a couple other passes. He's an athletic type and a big body. So, he's a guy that I think Utah would still like to get involved a little bit more. Larry Simmons is another guy. He caught the other touchdown against Wyoming. And I think there's just been, these moments and flashes from those two in particular where you hope that they can build on it. So I think, with Ryan Davis, Dallin Bentley being consistent, being the foundation of the passing attack, it's now building on that with emerging performances from some of these other guys like Merriweather, Buchanan, and Simmons potentially.
Steve, is there a go route guy? I mean, what was surprising to me against Texas Tech is it looked like Utah had zero speed. And I know some of that they relied on Devin Dampier, but he's banged up or whatever the issue is. Do they just have a flat speedster on the roster?
That's a great question, Ben. And Jackson Benny has been that guy. He's been the deep shot guy. They connected on one. Unfortunately, the penalty negated it. But they've taken a couple shots his way, deep down the field. He's an athlete where, he's probably, again, he's white, so he's a sneaky athlete. He's going to surprise people. But he's got 4.4 speed. Tobias Merriweather, he's another guy that he's got the athleticism to get by people. He's got the frame to be, a vertical presence. Even if he's not separating and blowing by people, he still can be that sort of big body pass catcher, like a Larry Fitzgerald type, where he can high point passes and that sort of thing. JJ Buchanan similarly, a lot like Dalton Kincaid, not the most explosive athlete, but good enough, in certain matchups to get downfield, get vertical, and win in that sense. They've got guys that can be that vertical stretch, but in terms of just pure go route, you're looking at Jackson Benny to be that guy. You're looking for Larry Simmons to potentially become that guy. One player that I think was primed for that type of role was Adrian Zipper. Unfortunately, he suffered an injury in fall camp. That's now a season-ending injury. So, that's an element that you lost with Zipper. I thought he was going to be that type of go-route guy, a Money Parks type of player. And so, but you got to move forward with what you got. And I think those are the guys that can best fill that role for Utah.
How many points? Well, I asked Ben this question earlier in the week this way, I guess. How many points do you think the offense has to get to ensure a victory? And it's kind of asking about the defense too, right? I mean, how many points do you expect West Virginia to score?
Yeah, I think, with this and looking at that injury report and not really understanding what West Virginia is going to be and kind of the turnover that they're dealing with from last year to this year, Rich Rod has brought in over 80 guys. There's just not a lot of unknowns. There's also not a great deal of talent, and that's with this West Virginia squad. But he's got guys that he can build with. And so, in terms of this matchup, just given the injuries, you feel good about the defense's ability to control and sort of dictate things. So I think Utah's defense can limit West Virginia's offense and their ability to, put drives together and put points on the board. Utah last week, again, they had a stretch from after giving up that opening drive, they forced, I think it was, 8 out of the next 9 drives were either a punt or an interception outside of a field goal at the end of the half. So this defense has shown that they can get stops and they can get takeaways, and I think that's going to be key for tomorrow with Utah. And then with the offense, if the defense has a sort of performance that they're capable of, and they've been really effective outside of the last 8 minutes against Texas Tech, you feel good about the offense as long as they get to 25, 27, 28 points, 30 points. I think you feel good about Utah's chances to get the win. I think Utah's offense is capable of doing, more than that. But I think in terms of what it means, complementing the offense, I think it's going to be important for Utah's offense to come out strong, establish a couple drives, get a couple possessions going where you eat up some clock and sort of, keep the defense off the field at times in this one. And I think that's going to be the key for Utah tomorrow.
Good game tonight. TCU on the road at Arizona State. What are you looking for in that game?
Yeah, I think this one is going to be really, really interesting because, we watched Arizona State go on the road and get a big win against Baylor in Waco. And I was really impressed. I had Baylor winning that one because I thought, Arizona State, they had a couple of injuries that they were dealing with. Xavier Alford is a starting safety for them that I thought was going to be pretty pivotal in that matchup. But Baylor just wasn't able to get the stops that they needed to, particularly late in the game. And Sam Levitt, I thought, had a really strong performance. So, Arizona State surprised me there. But TCU, they're just playing really good football. Josh Hoover looks like one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country. He's playing at an elite level in terms of executing what you would like to see a quarterback execute, right? Going through your progressions, getting the ball to the open guy, and keeping the offense on the field. I've been really impressed with TCU. I think the difference between Baylor and TCU is actually on the defensive side of the ball. I think TCU's defense is capable of disrupting a little bit more than Baylor, of also limiting success on the ground a little bit better than Baylor. So I think this is going to be a really competitive contest. And with these Friday night games, you never really know what you're going to get. It's kind of like Thursday night games for the NFL. But I think I actually like TCU in this matchup to go on the road in Tempe and surprise the Sun Devils.
Steve, we know you've got a shine tasting coming up, so we'll cut you loose. Thank you for coming on with us, and enjoy the game tomorrow. We'll be glued to your coverage.
Hey, appreciate you guys. I am going to go find some of that sweet, sweet nectar. So if you don't hear from me for the next little while,
he's in the woods somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Getting his shine on. Thanks, Steve.
See you guys.
See you, buddy.
Standing over a 55-gallon barrel, a man with a boat oar, and just nature.
I think he's probably passed, a dozen shiners so far just getting to the stadium? I mean, that's like their major
That's the thing.
economic activity,
It
I
is.
think.
Bring your own mason jar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go differences between the Pac-12 and the Big 12. In the Pac-12, maybe you go to Napa for a wine tasting
Sure.
if you're going to a, Stanford,
Sure.
Utah game or whatever. And go to Morgantown, you got to get your shine tasting on. You got to experience the culture.
Yeah. I bet Steve looks great in a pair of overalls.
He probably does.
Yeah.
With a mason jar in his hand.
Mason jar,
that's
boots, nothing else.
That's his natural habitat.
Yes, it is.
Instead of the oaky undertones, you can taste like what the glass was used for before.
Oh, you don't know if you can taste anything. Just melts your face. Yeah, I don't know what the tasting is.
Shine. I told you that. Speaking of Nashville, I told you somebody tried to sell me Shine in the bathroom of a Nashville bar.
The question is, does it blind you before it gets into your mouth?
I said, heck no. Buy strange booze from some guy in a bathroom? No.
It's 190
no,
proof.
I do not want
I bet.
whatever Shine you're selling. No, I do not. All right, stay tuned. Coming up next, we're going to preview the Cougs
gasoline.
and the Buffs with Tyler King. He covers Colorado for the Denver Gazette. Coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Let's go! Complete game coverage of the Cougars is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. The Cougars head to Boulder for a battle against Coach Prime and the Buffaloes. Your home for the best coverage of Cougar football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Woo!
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The nightcap tomorrow night on ESPN, BYU and Colorado. Let's get out of the zone phone. Joining us now, he covers the Buffs for the Denver Gazette. He's Tyler King with us on the Jake and Ben Show. What's going on, Tyler?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
Doing well. Caden Salter had a good game. He had a nice performance against Wyoming, and I think we can start there. We've seen Wyoming. We know they're not a terrific team. They lost to Utah and really couldn't move the ball at all. But Caden Salter looked really confident. I was really kind of impressed with his touch on some of the deep balls, but when he wants to put the ball on the ground and tuck it and run, he can be pretty dangerous. What have you seen from him, and how much of what he did against Wyoming is replicable?
I'm interested to see that, too, this week because, obviously, he did not play that well. I mean, he was okay, I think, in the Buffs opener against Georgia Tech, and then they had the pretty weird open quarterback competition in week 2 before eventually getting back to Salter last week. It was an encouraging performance, like you said. He was doing it with both his arm and with his legs. I was most impressed by his willingness to kind of throw the ball deep and let his receivers make a play, which he did multiple times, on some designed deep shots down the field, and then on some broken plays, like the one he really had was he avoided a sack, and it was kind of just a scramble drill, and he kind of floated the ball perfectly to one of his wide receivers, Sincere Brown, who just took off and ran for a big touchdown. So it was impressive to see, but I think they still want to get him using his legs and being that kind of guy, especially in a game like this where the Buffs are not going to have their top 2 running back options. Or at least the guys that have been the most used throughout the first couple games of the season. So, because even Deion Sanders said after last week's game that the 35-yard rushing touchdown that Salter had that kind of capped the game, that was the encapsulation of what they thought they were getting out of Salter, the guy who was capable of doing that. So, it's obviously going to be a much, much different test, like you said, this week against BYU, a very good defense, first in the Big 12 through their first 3 games of the season. It's not Wyoming, but I think part of it is replicable, but how much I think is going to tell the story of who wins tomorrow night.
The storyline going into this year for BYU has been, bringing back a really good team, but a real wild card going with a true freshman at quarterback. And thus far, he's not made a ton of mistakes, speaking of Bear Bachmeier, and has been fine, but against, of course, lesser competition. My question to you is, does Colorado have the type of defense that can make things tricky for a young quarterback?
Through 4 games, no, I don't think so. Like they had an improved performance last week against Wyoming, but the second half was not up to their standard. They played well in the first half, but through the first couple games, it has been, whatever the opposing offense wanted to do, they were able to do. With Georgia Tech, and they've got a dual threat guy in Haynes King, they racked over 300 rushing yards. The next week, Delaware, a team new to the FBS, had over 300 passing yards and was kind of picking up big gains through the air when they wanted to at times during that game. And then Houston in the Big 12 opener a couple weeks ago was able to do a little bit of both. Both run the ball they got a veteran running back and a capable quarterback who can do a little bit of both. So it's going to be different for Bear Bachmeier, I think, like you said, with a jump up in competition. But I would not be surprised at all if BYU really leans into LJ Martin this week. Colorado has shown they're vulnerable against the run, and I think BYU's got a pretty solid offensive line that can push around CU's pretty beat up defensive line already early in the season. They're down a couple guys both on the edge and at D tackle. So I would expect BYU to really try to control the ball with LJ Martin on the ground. And then, I mean, they still got talented guys that Bear Bachmeier can throw to once they really establish the ground game, that if Colorado decides to load the box, you can throw the ball to Chase Roberts. Carson Ryan's been a pretty good option at tight end so far for him. So it's going to be a challenge, in this kind of environment for Bear. Obviously the road game last week, I think at East Carolina helps. Just any kind of road game will help him. But I think this will be a different animal this week. But I think BYU is going to do as much as they can to take stuff off of his plate, especially early in the game.
It's still early in the season, Tyler, but I look at this game as just kicking off a murderer's row of opponents for Colorado. BYU, TCU, Iowa State, Utah. Arizona looks good so far. I don't think West Virginia's good. We'll see what Arizona State looks like tonight, and Kansas State maybe cleans it up by the end of the season. But, man, if Colorado is going to make a bowl game, they just can't afford to lose very many because you just know they're not going to run the gamut against these guys. What's a successful season from here on out because it does get so difficult?
I think a bowl game was always going to be what I deemed a successful season, even coming into the year. They obviously had expectations of winning the Big 12 because they were so close last year, but this is such a new-look team. Even when you bring in a veteran quarterback like Salter, the offensive line it's a brand-new offensive line outside of Seton at left tackle, who's a stud, but he's still only a sophomore. The wide receiver group is brand new, all that kind of stuff. The defense lost its key playmakers with Travis Hunter, Cameron Silman-Craig, the two linebackers from last year, and a couple guys up front too. So I always thought it was going to be their expectations were a little bit higher inside the building than what they should have been, for us that cover the team. Because like you said, this is a really, really difficult schedule. And we thought that last year, but, I think it ended up being a lot softer than it looked in the preseason with Oklahoma State and Utah, both kind of having down years. And even teams like Kansas and all the teams that end up playing Arizona in the back half of the year were not as good as maybe the preseason expectations. But this year it feels like, like you said, with BYU, TCU, Iowa State, the first 3 weeks of Big 12 or resuming Big 12 play because they already played Houston, who's definitely improved as well. They're going to be, I think they need to get a win to in this 3-week stretch to maybe have hopes of getting a bowl game, but it's like I said, it's not going to be easy at all. And I think maybe tomorrow night is their best hope, just because, like we talked about, BYU has still not really played anybody all that great yet. And Colorado's at least had a couple solid or tough opponents with Georgia Tech and Houston so far. So this game is going to be massively important, I think, to both sides, because I think if BYU has aspirations of competing for a Big 12 title game, they've got to prove it tomorrow night in Folsom Field.
Covering Utah and seeing them play Colorado over the years, there's no doubt that the juice surrounding the program when Deion Sanders was hired, and of course into next year, was through the roof, no doubt. I'm curious to what's the vibe around the fan base with the program? Is that juice maintaining, or how do fans feel about Coach Sanders and the Buffaloes now?
I think it's plateaued a little bit, but I think in a positive way, in that it's still way higher than it was, say, in 2022. That was my first year covering this program. And obviously they go 1-11, losing by an average of 30 points every week, just hitting rock bottom. Obviously it was such a swoon over the last couple of years for this program. And I think it's kind of leveled off to a place where you've gotten all of the people you've needed to back into the program, whether that's locally in terms of the people willing to spend their money, not just to come to games, but to donate to the program and help them, build up NIL collectives and all that kind of stuff. I think they've improved in that regard, but it'll be interesting to see if they, struggle to make a bowl game this year, how that changes.
What's the weather going to be like tomorrow?
Seems like it's going to be pretty good. It's, it's going to be, I think it's, where I am here in Denver, it's going to be around 80 degrees today. So had one rainy day earlier this week, but it seems like it's going to be nice weather again tomorrow night.
Whatever we have today is what it's going to be like tomorrow.
It's quite nice today.
Yeah, it's beautiful today.
Yeah, right.
A little gray.
Yeah, but not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
Quite mild. Tyler, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the game tomorrow.
Great stuff, Tyler.
Yep, thanks, guys. Anytime.
That's Tyler King. He covers the Buffs for the Denver Gazette.
We were going to ask him about the Broncos, but Christian called him 25 minutes ago and chewed his ear off for a little while.
You found out everything you needed to know.
Everything.
We're boys now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw picks.
That'd be 1-3. The weird loss to who's the quarterback in Cincinnati? Jake Locker?
Jake Browning.
Different Jake. Both went to Washington.
Both crappy.
I don't know. Locker wasn't great, but Browning, he's still young.
Betting on Browning?
I don't know.
Okay.
We had who was the NFL guy we had on that said Cincinnati was in a really good position to absorb the Joe Burrow loss. Remember that last week we had the NFL guy on?
Brian Diardo.
Was that who it was? Brian Diardo?
Must have been lying.
Who was talking up Browning? I don't know.
Did we have him? I don't know if we had him on after Joe Burrow was hurt.
Maybe. Anywho. You're not loving Jake Browning, huh?
Historically, teams do better when they lose their starting quarterback, if I know anything about football.
I don't know. You thought Throw Picks was the worst quarterback to ever play in the NFL.
What's the record?
Right now, 1-2.
Okay.
But they haven't trailed at all in regulation. They've just lost on 2 last-second kicks.
Whatever gets you out of bed in the morning, Christian.
Yep, exactly.
The Donks have the
We're
late...
technically 3-0. We technically haven't lost a game yet.
Yeah.
If the game ended when the clock stopped, we're undefeated.
I'm glad you're finally seeing it my way.
All
Sean
right.
Payton, we'll see if he can do it. He's got the magic.
Well, he should be able to beat the Bungles, I would think.
You'd hope so.
All right, stay tuned. We wrap up the show. Wrap up the week. Coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Nobody gets you ready for Utah football more than the KSL Sports Zone.
Ready?
Kyle Whittingham and the Utes hit the road for a battle against West Virginia. Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two niggas on their ways, talking sports. They got it made Jake's and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarf. Oh my.
This is Zach here, calling in for the Jake and Ben Show. Fellow podcast listener here, going back to the conversation from yesterday. The way to fix the college football playoff and the increased meaning is to make the conference championship games the first round of the playoffs. This would increase the importance of every conference game. And then at the end of the season, you take the top 4 conferences, which are generally going to be the Power 4 conferences, and you do a 4-team playoff with the champions from each conference. That way, every team controls their fate. They don't have to rely on a bunch of bozos who are going to pick SMU over BYU like last season to make the decision of what teams. Every team has a shot. You win your games. You get in. You get to play for a championship.
All right, shout out to Zach with the call-in. This segment is brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255, Peach Doors and Windows. I'm also really glad that Zach identified himself as a podcast listener, who we love and value our podcast listeners.
More than anyone else.
Well, that's not true. It's
not?
It's equal.
Oh, okay.
But we want our
It's less than, Zach, actually.
The point is we want our podcast listeners to be able to call in as well.
Yeah.
So Zach did that perfectly. Identify what show it's for, send it on in, Christian will find it. And if you're weighing in on something we talked about before, no problemo.
Yeah, we love it.
More than happy to bring it back up. And you know what? I actually really like that solution. I've thought of that. Why don't they use the conference championship game as basically a first round? It makes it more regional. It makes it more interesting. But in that scenario, they're going to get sued for antitrust by the Boise States of the world. So you have to kind of figure out a way to calculate that access. But I do like that idea.
I was going to hit Zach with one of these.
Cat in the wall, eh?
But the more I think about it, the more I'm with you. And actually, one of the things we haven't talked about, or at least I haven't thought of, or I've forgotten that I've thought of it, but that happens a lot, is that the Pac-12 DPing itself, no longer being a true power conference, de-platforming itself as a P5, does set that up to be the perfect solution.
It makes the math easier. Yeah.
4 teams, 4 conference championship games, then you advance to the Final Four, which was what I was advocating for yesterday, why I think the expanded college football playoff is stupid and has ruined college sports, at least ruined college football for me personally. bam, right back to 4. You're a conference championship. You earned it. What the ranking is the base of the seeding. 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3. I don't care if the 4th best team or the 4th highest ranked team is the Big Ten team and the number 1 team is the SEC. Cool, you got to play each other. And Clemson or whoever wins the ACC, Florida State, gets to play Texas Tech or BYU or Utah or whoever it is. Cool. Boom. Super easy.
Seems clean. I agree.
But then you don't have to play 6 games after your conference championship game, which devalues and puts the conference championship game so far in the rearview mirror that you can't even remember who got there and how they got there. Were you an at-large? Did you win your title? No, it actually adds value back to that. So, Zach, good answer. Good call.
It's never going to happen, unfortunately. Again, they would get sued by the Boise States of the world for antitrust. Get Mark Shurtleff on the horn. Remember him? Mm-hmm. He used to come on and rail against the BCS. It was an easy political win for him.
Yep.
Ben, before we get out of here, I just stumbled across a video of 2 fat guys fighting on a plane over an armrest.
Okay.
What's the proper armrest, airplane armrest policy? Because I really would like to know this. I have no idea what it is.
There's not one.
What is the appropriate?
The appropriate is put 4 more inches in between the seats so everyone can have an extra armrest. But then again, the aisle becomes so narrow that nobody could possibly walk through it.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
There's not one. There's really not one. You know what it should be if we were all polite and we lived in a society and we were a real country? Whoever gets stuck with the middle seat should get both.
Because they're stuck with the middle seat.
Because you're stuck with the middle seat.
See,
You got
I like
the worst
that policy.
spot.
That's a good policy.
So you get both. If I want to lean left, I want to lean right, I get those. You've got a window. You can lean against it. You also control whether it's going to be bright or dark on the ride, which we all know, leave the shade down, but some people don't. And then if you're in the aisle, you can get up and go to the bathroom. You're not climbing over anybody. You've got that advantage. So the middle seat should get something, and it should be both armrests.
I am 1,000% on board with that policy. But there should be a policy.
It
so
should
2
be general knowledge.
hefty middle-aged men don't have to make a scene on an airplane.
What kind of fight?
Yeah,
Like passive aggressive? Like they just keep putting their arms on top of each other?
I just put it down. I didn't get to hear it with. There's a verbal component to it too.
That's my take. In fact, I would run for president on that, and I think I'd have a decent chance.
Is there any issue in traveling that would cause you to make a scene on a plane?
I'm a pretty good traveler. I don't think so. I guess I have a line. If another passenger was being absurdly rude, I could see myself saying something. I wouldn't talk to kids at the movie theater because they were talking too much a few months ago.
Yeah, but that's not making a scene.
No, it's not. It was the end of the movie. It's like if the plane had already landed.
Yeah, I'm talking about like you open up the Snap Talk the next day and it's like, bam, there's Ben freaking out on a Southwest flight.
I don't think so.
No?
Man, I hope not.
Christian?
Ben only freaks out at Texans games.
Yeah, right. I'm only at the NFL.
Christian, is there any excuse, example of rudeness that would cause you to lose your mind to make a scene on an airplane?
He berates anyone wearing a Chargers jersey.
Raiders, yeah.
He just goes right after him.
Is that Geno Smith?
Yeah, okay, pal. Watch this.
Sit down, buddy.
Yeah, and then you throw a bag at him.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Christian's polite. Christian's more polite than either of us.
I'd probably make a scene if they only had like diet ginger ale. I think that would be the like.
That's your line?
I want sugar in my ginger ale.
Full-fledged
Yes, I do.
ginger ale.
I want sugar in my ginger ale, and if I don't get it, look out. You better have the federal marshals at the next gate.
No, I had my seat kicked. There was a baby crying next to me. You know what? Maybe I won't get into it.
No, go ahead.
On my way back from Nashville, there was. I was going to ask you guys about it, and I opted not to, but I guess we're here. A woman was feeding her baby.
Like breastfeeding?
Breastfeeding her baby.
Okay. Next to you?
I was middle.
Uh-huh.
Stranger next to me.
Uh-huh.
Next to them. Actually, I guess it was my fiance next to me. Stranger was at the window. Across the aisle. Right across the aisle.
Uh-huh.
Just.
Going for it?
Straight out in the open. Full everything in the open.
Didn't have the drape
no
or
cover.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't like, I'm on a plane, this is a necessity, I'm sorry. This was I'm planting my flag. You're going to know that I'm a mom. and I'm going to be the proudest mom, even though every other interaction she had on the plane seemed to imply that she hated her husband, her children, her in-laws who were clearly on the plane with her. This was not about I'm a proud mom. This was about her exclusively. This was about I'm going to do this because I say I have the right to, which you do have the right to, absolutely. I mean, no one kicked her off the plane, but I was just curious. You guys cool with that, or you causing a scene over that?
No, absolutely. I'm not causing a scene over that. No, I'm going to look straight forward and mind my own business.
Right. It was actually too bad my fiance didn't have the window seat, because when I had to look over at her to be like, let me position your head in the exact right spot, because what's happening is unique.
Yeah, I'd just sit there and be uncomfortable. That's probably what she's aiming for. And
yes, and
succeeded.
I do think that's what it was. And I know that sounds selfish of me. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think her desire was to see how uncomfortable she could make people around her in hopes that somebody would say something so she could snap.
So she could yell at him.
Yeah. Because she was yelling at everybody that was in her traveling party as is. So.
Well, you should have volunteered.
To do what?
You should have said, "Put that thing away, lady."
Okay.
Should have volunteered to lead to the scene on the airplane.
Then I look like the bad guy.
So?
Yeah. Loser man attacks woman for breastfeeding child. It's like, there's no way to win that argument.
Sure isn't. All right, stay tuned. Hans and Scotty G are coming up next.
Thanks, Christian.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.